Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be doing a starting steps video for Great Britain, but we're going to be a little bit less focused on the starting steps themselves because for the most part you can kind of just play Great Britain however you like, and any starting steps video will give you a good idea of how to play them well. Instead, what we're going to be mainly focused on is we're going to be focused on the great game content throughout this run. We are playing this on patch 1.7.3, which I think is kind of the Thunderdome patch, where the AI is very aggressive, they build a ton of armies, and we might be mixing it up quite a bit, but also I wanted to focus a little bit on, in previous patches, Great Britain just has never at any point in time really been the strongest power, and I think that this might be different in this patch, at least at game start, for a few reasons. They don't have the most monstrous GDP, but Great Britain has more than double, or has around double the next largest number of financial districts as the next person, who is France. They have 250, France I think has like 120, something like this, and it seems to be the case that financial districts kind of snowball, and so being in this spot means that your economy will snowball really, really quickly because we will be getting a ton of capitalist investment pool contribution, and this leaves them in a very strong spot, in regards to 1.7 changes, which is something we're going to be focused on talking about, with the new position for Great Britain. But also, we start off with the power block. Sovereign Empire might be the strongest block overall because I think that overall the fact that it is a decreasing liberty desire is probably going to help out a lot for your ability to subjugate and annex multiple powers over the course of a long period of time. Starting to come to the conclusion that this is probably the strongest central identity pillar, and they start out with the kind of strongest version of that, where we already have colonial offices too. And since we have so many subjects, and that is the primary driver of how much mandate you can generate, since they have so many subjects, this means that you will be absolutely blitzing kind of out of the gate, becoming very strong very quickly, both because your capitalists are going to get rolling faster, which is something that every other country struggles a lot with, especially the smaller countries. You just don't have the capitalists to start churning and getting investment pool, this type of thing. But not only this, we will generate mandate very quickly, so we will gain access to our principles faster than anyone else, and so we will be able to gain access to these really, really strong abilities that we are getting from these sorts of things. Also, vassalization I think is quite strong, and out the gate it allows us to play with a ton of authority, which I think we're probably going to use for both passing laws faster here at the very beginning, doing a lot of consumption taxes, taxing the rich, which is very, very, very strong, and then also I think we're going to play tall and lean quite heavily into the edicts, because the Sovereign Empire also gives you a statue, or their monument gives you decreased cost on edicts, and so all of this together leaves Great Britain in a place that I don't think they were at before, where you can play kind of this thematically tall empire stretching thing, and I think that they are finally probably the strongest country at game start, or if not the strongest, at least tied with kind of the likes of France and Qing. One of the reasons we actually start here with so many financial districts is because we now start with ownership of quite a bit of the EIC stuff overseas. You can use this heat map to look at overseas ownership. We see that we own 100% of our stuff, but if we look at the heat map over here, we will see in several of these provinces, specifically kind of in the northern portion of India, we will own over half of the economy here. So if we take a look here, the manor houses in the home counties own 12 levels of the opium here, and this is going to be true in a lot of spots for a lot of the ownership, and so this means that we have a really, really large ownership class, and it's not just limited to the capitalists, but we also have, a lot of manor houses that are going to be getting quite large dividends and going to be reinvesting that. So expect to see, why don't we even just take a look? We have a reinvestment of 57k here. The next biggest is probably going to be on France, and we'll see what their reinvestment just at game start is before we kind of get into the action and also count their things. We see they're at 32k, which to be fair is quite large as well, but France is the next biggest, and they're only like 60%. And if we take a look at their buildings here, we will be able to see they only have 122 financial districts, and they have a lot more manor houses. They have a lot more population than the UK, and despite having a lot more population, they're still only 60% of the reinvestment. And so they're also going to have a weaker capitalist class, and it's important to note that this is probably the guys who are in the next best position. Industrialists, only 6% 20% clout. And then if we kind of come over to Great Britain, having a bunch of stuff overseas that's owned by, you know, the industrialists or the capitalists is one of the reasons why we're up at 10%, and it's only going to grow quite quickly. New in 1.7.3 specifically is we start out guaranteeing Transvaal and Irania. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of all of the guarantees, which will free up a little bit of a diplo. We're going to use this diplo to improve relations with great powers. We're going to rival anyone who, you know, can kind of we afford to rival. We're going to rival Sweden, and we're going to try and get trade agreements / improve relations with GPs specifically. I think that by doing this, we will increase our chances of being able to sway for a bankroll, and this is going to be pretty important. We have a whole bunch of subjects, and we don't have access to anywhere near the influence we start with because we have less influence, or we have 500 influence being sunk into creating the British Empire power block. But since we're going to get mandate so quickly, we might use the mandate, at least at the very start, to generate ourselves a lot of diplo so that we can get a lot of these trade agreements so we can have positive relations with the other GPs. While they Thunderdome it out, we will be able to be nice and safe behind our accumulated positive relations. I think we're going to improve specifically starting with France and look to get them underneath poor, which will give us a positive relation catalyst. This is something that's new in 1.7. Specifically, anytime you reach a new tier, this creates a catalyst which can change their attitude, and this seems like a little bit of a freebie. And we'll be trying to take a look at all the GPs and you know, slowly bring them up above 20 if we can, while doing some sort of small ball expansion where we're not acquiring too much infamy that will scare them, or we're acquiring infamy specifically in areas that do not have a lot of diplomatic interests. If we look at strategic regions that do not have a lot of other GPs interested in them, like here has France interested in them, so that we can try and play a little bit nice with these foreign powers, at least at game start. I think this is going to be a little bit more important with the new block system, which tends to create relationships that are negative between you and other empires quite quickly. I think that, in particular with Russia, we might just, for the sake of narrative content, stay with rivaling Russia. And so I don't think that this is correct, but we are going to stay a little themey with Russia and rival them and stay rivaled on them. But also, the new mechanics for, you know, the political lobbies are quite nice in this regard, because what you can end up having is you can get situations where you have 5 interest groups all supporting one lobby that's an anti-X league, and so with this you can kind of farm appeasement or positive approval of the interest group members, which is going to be really nice, and is going to be a play pattern that I think you want to lean into. So maybe having one nemesis is useful, but in our situation it'd make more sense for us to make a nemesis out of Sweden, try and get anti-Sweden lobbies and this type of thing, because Sweden's not really going to thumb our pie or annoy us very much. We've spent our authority a little bit differently than we're doing on most other countries. We are actually going all in on a whole bunch of consumption taxes out from the get-go. We're going to encourage road maintenance in Lancashire and Midlands, where we're going to be building a lot initially, and we have a lot of manufacturing in the home counties, and we want to kind of throughout the game, I think, have encouraged manufacturing industry and really build these up quite a bit, just not at the immediate point, but this will give us a nice little economic bump. The main difference is we have such good laws at game start, and okay, we might end up leaning religious a little bit more than kind of normal at game start, but we have such good laws at game start, we don't really need to float this extra authority in order to get the extra enactment chance, and instead we will just be able to crank up. Also, we're in such a good position to crank up, and we can generate so much from taxes that we can really afford marginal construction sectors when we add consumption taxes. We're getting 67k from consumption taxes. When we increase all this, we are going to be making a ton of money, and we are going to go, you know, really high taxes and look to blast. And so these will really allow us to put in a lot of construction, a lot of additional construction just from the very outset here. And we want to kind of as quickly as possible get these guys clout above 20% and get these guys happy so that we can get plus 20% capitalist investment pool contribution efficiency. This is going to be more valuable for us than it is on other countries. Notably, France gets a construction bonus. That construction bonus, considering you might be building in other people's countries where you don't benefit from the construction bonus, the construction bonus is worse than it was previously. Still probably way better than just job creators, but just worth noting that it is going to be worth if you're going to be investing a lot. Also, you know, rest in peace, William of Hanover. You'll be gone soon. So the Opium Wars is a little bit different in 1.7 in that we can no longer just open up their market and go for Beijing. Instead, we would have to go for investment rights, which will give us 10 infamy. And so instead of just opening with taking Beijing, which is really kind of the special, we're going to take a treaty port, and we could take a treaty port that would be more useful than Shaozhou, but Shaozhou is the one that's Hong Kong, and I mean, this is the one that's on theme, right? So we will go for this for going for Great Qing rather than taking Beijing kind of at the opener here. We're also going for Brunei, but we should be able to handle that quite easily. And if they back down, that's great. If they don't back down, also great. We will put in war reparations. We'll make it primary. And then we'll put in a couple other things that we want to make in there in order to maybe get them to back down, like releasing a few states. But we should be able to handle this quite easily with this 140 stack. We're going to conscript up this army just in case, and we'll be landing with 100 stack, and with the malice that Great Qing has, they will be kind of helpless, and we'll just land the capital and push in from there. We, of course, don't forget to start colonizing. Something that's pretty easy to do is Great Britain, making sure that we're getting in there, specifically on Kenya, where we will have overall the best access to colonies out of kind of anyone, although I suppose France can go for Kenya too at game start. Alright, so this is probably going to end up being a really high-powered run. If things go really well, we might even turn this into kind of pushing and seeing if we can maybe do some sort of world conquest bit. But for now, we have swayed in to join the USA using a yo-yo sway for a bankroll in 37. So if we can do this, we should be able to dust up a whole bunch of things. And brewing up, we do have another interest that is going to be important, is we're going to be able to side with France and maybe do something with France because they're going for Constantine. Really, really nice area to have an interest here in North Africa. Also important is down here because when they have their native uprisings, you will be able to subjugate Argentina and Chile for free as pretty much anyone. So this is probably also one of those valuable places to have a diplo interest. Winning the Opium War, of course we say, let them eat opium. Does that actually say let them eat opium? Holy snap, it does. Let them eat them. So we're going to actually exempt from service several little powers, but also the East India Company, because we do not want them to join in on our wars. And a big reason why we don't want them to join in on our wars is that we want to be able to go for Sind or something like this maybe, or go for Burma, or go for the Sikh Empire, and then use a sway to offer up war goals to the British East India Company that they might want, and in doing so, I'll let them kind of eat the infamy. And so we'll kind of do the first one. We are going to be going for Conquer Sind, just kind of straight up, but here in it, we do see that pretty likely, for example, that Siam joins, and so we might be able to feed a portion of Siam to the British East India Company, and so this will help out. We also exempted from service some of the littler powers that are not going to end up helping us that much, because we don't want them to rev as often, and they're more likely to rev if they are involved. So something like the Mosquito Kingdom, even though it can't enter in, would be exempted, but we exempted Van Diemen's Land, for example. We don't want them to be mobilized constantly with their one battalion that they can't afford. We are now getting a whopping 130k in Diplopacts from 40k and 40k from bankrolls from both the USA and from France, which is going to be extremely strong. We're going to add more construction, and kind of within the first year of the game, we will probably be up at around 200 construction. Now, we are experiencing some phenomena that's a little bit new to 1.7. You know, we're just trying to blast and chill into here. Oop, we see that with this phenomena went away, but what was going down is that this building was downsizing because it was not fully employed up all the way, and this is perhaps partly due to our overbuilding in Midlands. And so what we've done is we have gone ahead and also added greener grass to both Midlands and Lancashire. I think that what we can try and do is not just build for economies of scale, but also, or sorry, not just build for local price consideration, but also build a little bit for economies of scale. We are going to be passing laissez-faire, but we are not going to be nationalizing these buildings just quite yet that are specifically in the resource industries, because if we nationalize them, manor houses, for example, will be able to buy them, or sorry, if we privatize them. So we'll keep them nationalized for now, and instead look to sell to the capitalists buildings that cannot be bought by the manor houses, such as manufactories, where we will just put these up for sale because the manor houses can't buy them. Also, to the end of kind of preventing the manor houses from buying these buildings, I'm not sure how important it is. Ooh, we kind of probably want to switch on to this, but I'm not sure how important it is, but I think that we're going to add a few levels of some stuff for them to buy once laissez-faire passes that is going to be agrarian oriented, with the hopes that they buy that instead of kind of the local stuff, because they will have a prioritization for it. Now, we don't see very, very good options here, just kind of a bunch of rye farms in terms of what we have locally, although we do see the wine here, and wine is very good. But what we can do is we can just build overseas, particularly in some of these absolutely outstanding provinces like North Bengal, which, okay, normally you want to build in your own territory, but when we're getting stuff like 5% market access price impact and the agricultural and plantations throughput, it's going to be really good. And in particular, Delhi is going to look extremely good because it is going to not have rice, so it's not going to cause massive levels of unemployment. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to put a few levels of this into the queue for the opium, which of course we are graciously providing to Great Qing. So we finished condensing engine pump, we finished a water tube boiler, which gives condensing engine pump, which is generally kind of the opener if you already have a railways and also stock exchange. Now we're going to actually research Bessemer process, which is not something you normally do on most countries. I think after this, we're going to go into pharmaceuticals. We already have a bunch of good laws. We would want public health insurance, but right now we also do have charity hospitals, which is not terrible. And getting off of them are probably going to be a bit of a pain anyways. We're probably going to have to go no health insurance, radicalize those guys, and then go public health insurance using them. So that's going to be a little bit of a vibe. But the reason we are going Bessemer process, which normally doesn't really make that much sense because it's not that great, is because we have an actual very strong company here, which we will be able to slot in as soon as we research it. We can't slot this guy out yet for another 20-something days or 20 days, but after that we will be able to slot in the Baclau, Vaughan & Co. company, which is going to be quite good for us. It's one of several, I think 4 companies that give you steel, iron, and coal at game start. The other one is New Russia Limited over here, the Andrew Carnegie Steel Company over here, and then I forget the name, but there is a Spanish company down here. I think it's in Asturias that also is pretty good. That one doesn't have a requirement of a tech, but the requirement of only need Bessemer process, which is a tier 2 tech, very easy to achieve, and leaves us in, kind of even more power that is like giving us a really explosive start here. I think that we'll even probably add military pretty early on here just to make sure we can keep the sways going. We are landing in on Sindh. Main reason we're going for Sindh is because we're playing into the expand British India kind of goal, and we want to be able to go for some of this stuff, which we need to have everything in the strategic engine. All countries in North and South India are subjects or subjects of our subjects, and so that is going to require us going after the likes of Sindh in terms of strategic region. It's also going to require us to go after these guys, which is maybe going to play a little bit better. We hope that the British East India Company actually goes for someone, and often something you could do that we're not going to do quite yet is actually, what we're going to do? We're going to reduce subject payments. This is going to reduce their liberty desire, but also the more money they have, generally speaking, it has been true in the past that if you bankroll them, they're more likely to integrate their vassals. We hope that they do this, and so we're going to hope that this makes sense for getting them to pass, do that sort of thing. Also, we're going to turn off migration controls and go no migration controls if we can. Looks like we can't. It's just 100% debate, which is unfortunate, but we can try and massage them in that direction. And the reason we would want this is because this would allow Indian pops to inter-market migrate to our country, and so this would be very useful. We just have to figure out a way to get them so that we can try and pass this law. So that we can get off of migration controls, which is going to be a little bit of a vibe. Right now they have in the armed forces, so we could try and do stuff like get onto national or professional army. This would be one that they don't absolutely hate. The stall from the landowners would be a little bit of a vibe. I forget the rules for if they rev too early, is this really bad for us before we reduce their autonomy? And we don't want to reduce their autonomy because we want them as a dominion so they can start wars. So I think we'll go for the relatively... this won't pass either. We'll try and find something for them that we could try and pass that will allow us to make progress, but maybe we just have to wait for them to radicalize a little bit in this type of thing. We could try and bankrupt them by forcing the pass of things that give institutions, which they really can't afford, and this would be really easy to pass, but it would be catastrophic for them, I think. So we are flirting with a little bit of danger in regards to this revolution. We started suppressing the landed gentry, really kind of explosive out the gate with regards to how many radicalism we've gotten. We are more than willing to, we're probably just going to abdicate away Victoria because I mean, I think I kind of want to showcase the power level of Great Britain more so than maybe do a little bit of theme, and so maybe going for Sind here is a little bit of a mistake, because how important is the Great Game really? But it's pretty important because we're swaying. What are we swaying for? For, of course, a subjugate, subjugate Persia right off the bat. They always go for something, and then we just say, hey, you know what? You're not allowed to take that unless you become our subject. And they're like, sure, that seems fair, except it's not really fair. And so we will be subjugating them very, very nicely. What we do, of course, is we put in offer support, we ask for become subject, and then without unpausing, we join the other side, and so they're like, oh no, this Diplo play is impossible, and so they capitulate to it, and so they will get what they want, which is, of course, a little bit of goodies, and we will get what we want, which is, of course, their goodies. So for our first mandate, we've decided to go Construction 1, kind of a little bit of a decision, because I think it would have been reasonable for us to also go for Colonial Offices 3. I think we are going to be leaning into this, but I don't think it's very good right yet, where it would have given us minus infamy cost against unrecognized powers, which, to be fair, this is what we're going against right now, but okay, this is fine enough. Also, kind of in terms of what we were thinking is maybe going external trade 2, which allows you to make the cars outside a little bit quieter, but also gives you the influential trade center, which is going to give you more influence, which would have allowed us to try and get bankrolls off of Austria and Prussia. But Construction 1, I think, is just one of the most solid ones you can get as your first mandate expenditure, and really just sit on it, 10% construction efficiency. This paired with us using the edicts in Midlands for road maintenance is going to give it an additional 10% state construction efficiency. And then once we slot in the company, that is going to give us, steel, iron, and coal. We will really be able to crank up here, getting like 50% state construction efficiency. Really want to focus on Lancashire and the Midlands at the very kind of beginning here, or at least this is our strategy. We do have peasants still in both, I think, but not a lot of peasants in Midlands, but we are attracting a lot of pops in both, and so we should be able to build tall up into these, and as we acquire more subjects, we'll get more authority. We aren't really going for subjects just quite yet, I think, off of Sind, but I think we're going to try and subjugate the Sikh Empire, these guys as well, and maybe Burma, this type of thing, and we do have a nice little chunk of infamy, so maybe we go after some of the small ball guys, then we get Colonial Offices 3, and then we go for some of the bigger stuff like the Sikh Empire, and also gain progress here for the Great Game, which we are at the very least going to lean into this content although we're trying to kind of min-max a little bit here, just to showcase, I think, how strong the UK is at the start. And this, of course, is Persia's war that we are helping them with in exchange for them, seeing the light and becoming our subject. USA forms a trade league power block, which is kind of neat to see. Usually we see France form the very first block, but they haven't gone for it yet. In theory, we could get France into our block and then subjugate them, except for there's about no shot that we get them into our block. We do not have a lot of sway whatsoever, and it would be very, very hard for us to be able to generate enough leverage to get them into our block. But something like Portugal, we might be able to pull into our block and then free subjugate. And so that actually is quite appealing. That is actually quite appealing. We actually broke our defensive pact with them. Oh, we haven't broken our defensive pact with them. We were thinking about breaking our defensive pact with them. And so I guess we will maybe not do this. And instead, when we free up some available Diplo, which I think will stop improving relations maybe with Austria after we get on up, maybe what we can do is get some sort of investment agreement and then specifically invest in their capital, because their capital is not going to rev. It seems to be the case that if someone revs, you lose the buildings that revved in your foreign investment, or you lose ownership of those buildings. We don't want that to happen. The capital never joins the revs, and so maybe we'll be able to pull in Portugal like that and kind of showcase one of the powers of this power block, which is going to be that we get the unique interaction to Does it show here? No, it doesn't show quite here yet. Oh, it must be this button. The subjugate mechanic, where if we pull them into the block, we will lose a ton of cohesion, but we will get them as our subject for absolutely free. And so this is a pretty big deal, or zero cost of infamy. And if we could do someone like Portugal, who is reasonably sized and who we have a reasonable chance of pulling into our block, that'd be actually quite nice. So I think we'll play towards that after we, at the very least, get Austria up to relations of 20. Again, bringing them to the next level of cordial will trigger a thing that will maybe change their attitude from cautious, which will maybe allow us to get a trade agreement, which we would like a lot, because this would give us ticking positive relations with Austria and would make the rest of the game smoother. This is something that's like kind of hard to emphasize, and we maybe don't talk about it enough, is playing ball with the great powers kind of at game start is really useful for getting them to help you out. Now, why are you sad with us? You don't like us because you've generated a lot of infamy and we've generated a lot of infamy. Yeah, this is the Thunderdome patch, though, where everyone is going to eventually hate each other, so maybe all is for naught, because if these guys generate a ton of infamy, this will give negative relations to us, but they are reputable, and this is giving us positive relations. So if we can get bankroll trade agreements with a lot of these guys, maybe we can hang on having positive relations, and they'll just Thunderdome each other while we, scoop up all the profit. Okay, so we get Bessemer process right kind of before we get laissez-faire, so we maybe could have swapped this one out. This is not a very good company, but we will be able to swap this one in. This is going to be fantastic for us. We're going to start exporting all of this stuff and really trying to crank up, specifically in the two states we were going in. We also did the normal Peru-Bolivia kind of shuffle of transferring North Peru, liberating South Peru and Iquicha, but Brazil decided to join in against us, so we're going to also go for some war reparations and liberate Amazonias. We're hoping to kind of subjugate this and take this at some point, which will be able to fuel the beast with a lot of resources and be pretty good for us, especially because we can complete the journal entry, get some extra migration attraction, incorporate these states in a way that the AI is not going to be very good at, and also it makes Brazil a little bit smaller, and fighting Brazil is going to be reasonable, because I think that we might just want to go against Brazil this game, because we will be able to enact the South Atlantic slave trade, the Aberdeen Act, not the South Atlantic slave trade, which will give us 5% influence, which we'd rather have than 50 authority, I think, at this point. And so I think we'll lean into this. We won't damage relations with them, but us just being at war with them, kind of for an extended period of time, is going to move us in this direction, we hope. Oh, we could actually just rival them. That works too. And that actually solves some of the problems we have in terms of influence, which is going to be quite nice. And so we will rival up Brazil. We'll end up fighting Brazil at least for a little bit, but this extra influence will serve us quite nicely with our dreams of maybe doing stuff with Portugal, because now we will be able to do some stuff with Portugal. We'll request investment rights. We won't give them any type of agreement, and with those investment rights, we will be building up specifically here. We'll take all their wood from them, we'll give them nothing, and then we do know it is currently still wine meta season, although we're expecting that to be kind of patched in the next few days, probably while we're still playing the save, so we could either be a little bit conservative and go with the cotton, which will generally be better than wine, or the wine, which is right now wine, so we could do that, or we could just do fish. Let's do fish. Fish is going to be always good, and we kind of lock in the fish and the logging camps from them, so they will not be able to do. Actually, you know what? We do want a little bit of this stuff. We want some of this stuff so that our guys have stuff to buy when laissez-faire swaps government-owned shares that can be purchased by manor houses, so they keep their grubby fingers off of our logging camps and iron mines, which we worked so hard for. For our second company, I think we're going to slot in the British Steel Company, which is going to give us even more state construction efficiency. We see, though, it's not productive. One of the reasons why, we probably collapsed the price of steel a little bit, but productivity is generally raised, even if profitability is not raised, by introducing labor-saving PMs, so we're going to do that. And we're also going to look to export steel as best we can, because now we will have even more throughput on it. So even though we did put in quite a few exports on steel specifically, if we can just remember the alphabet, we'll be able to export it. We will look to export more. Maybe even to a few people that it's not even profitable with, just because we're trying to increase volume of trade with those people, and that is people like the Ottomans, great powers, these where we can look to create a little bit more buy orders. Hopefully we can increase the productivity here. Yikes. Yikesy poo. Why is the productivity so bad? Do we not have export prioritization on steel? We do not. So we will put export prioritization on steel. That should help out quite a bit. You can see that the price has come down. We need to get that price back up. Those are rookie price numbers, and so this is going to allow us to do the very best we can. We also, the things that feed into steel, we can make these cheaper too, which will increase the productivity as well. So we're going to continue to push up, in these places, the iron mines and the coal. Also, we have passed laissez-faire, so these will get bought up by private buildings. We are starting to drain out kind of the massive amount of wealth that we had accumulated, but we're also at 300 construction just a few years into the game, so we're, full steam ahead, and that's even with, doing stuff like reducing payments from our biggest payee in the British East India Company, which is maybe retrospectively a mistake. This would increase Liberty Desire by a little bit, but it's not too big a deal. Maybe we want their payments, we just don't want them to come in. We are also going for Gaza here, which is probably a mistake. I forgot that we could just take Cape Colony through and go into Orania directly, but it's still gonna give us another area of ingress eventually for the colonization game, which we are looking to play a little bit more. We are in the best position at the start as Great Britain, and so we're going to look to play into that. We also can do a law pass now, and it's a little bit uncertain, I think, what we should do. We maybe want to use the Anglican Church to try and pass some stuff. In particular, we kind of want to go no health systems, which might radicalize them, and then go onto public health insurance, which is a little bit of a vibe. Maybe we can find something that we can abdicate to, though. We have 5 million radicals out of, 30 million pops. We are kind of fine using our cooldown to abdicate, and so we could get an agitator agitating for something like elected bureaucrats, or even Mr. Philippe, who would agitate for general industrialist stuff, but would not actually let us go parliamentary republic or presidential republic. We could also just go to cultural exclusion, because this is what these guys are agitating for. Kind of would like to get elected bureaucrats. I think we promised elected bureaucrats to the petite bourgeoisie as well, so maybe we just try and pass that with the help of the agitator, which will give us a little bit more, or will reduce radicalism a little bit. This is kind of the enemy that we have to worry about, is the radicalism. It's currently not causing turmoil, but this is something to be concerned about, or it is causing turmoil here, and the reason we have to be concerned about is this negative state construction efficiency. So if we're going to play this sort of game, then where we're increasing radicalism, maybe we also need to lean into getting the law enforcement up quite a bit. Elected bureaucrats plays quite nice for us here, because not only can we just max out law enforcement, we have been building a little bit more government administrations. In fact, we don't even need the ones we have in the queue here. I guess we'll kick them to the back of the queue. We're probably going to, well, we can play fine with them because we actually have some stuff that we haven't incorporated, which we will, of course, incorporate, and it won't be controversial at all. Just a little bit of incorporation here, and so we could actually make use of some of these, which is going to give access to these institutions up here in Ireland, so that's going to be quite nice. We also have gone after Burma here for the purposes of expanding British India, which is going to make them our subject in that region with the loud car outside, of course. We had an opportunity to sway the British East India Company in exchange for a state, but we didn't go for it, because if they just took a state, then it would have been harder for us to annex Burma later, and British East India Company is recognized. We might actually reduce their autonomy a little bit earlier than we otherwise normally would, because if we reduce their autonomy, I think we will actually have an easier time passing laws, and the one we really want to pass is no migration controls, and there's 0 success chance, but I believe there you get a plus 10% modifier if you get, in particular, if you get them as your puppet instead of protectorate. So we might check that out. That might be a little bit of an improvement that we can make here, so that we can start siphoning off migrants, because they will migrate intramarket migration, even if they're discriminated, and there's a ton of discriminated pops. They're just not allowed to migrate because of the laws, so the Bengali people are not allowed to move. However, They will be allowed to move if we put no migration controls on East India Company. We do a little bit of a royal wedding for Victoria. I just realized we actually can't abdicate until she has an heir, and not that this wedding affects the heir, but I think this is a weird situation where we could go for 25 popularity, which will give us authority, but I actually think that the 20% influence is going to be a little bit more valuable for us, generally speaking, because we have access to a ton of authority from our subjects. We have 1.5k, and the influence is going to specifically help us out kind of earlier on here. And so we're going to see if we can get anyone with a trade agreement with anyone that is kind of substance. And we can't see, okay, we can get Arge, but Arge, we're looking for something with Austria or Prussia. We see we're pretty close with Prussia though, and we see that France is big mad at us. They must have canceled the diplomatic agreement. That is unfortunate. We are going to try and side on the same side of them. Bankroll is improving things. We just have to keep in mind that they're going to side against us very, very aggressively here. But what we're going to do with Prussia is we're going to look inside their market and try and see if there's anything that we can supply that they want, and these sorts of things to increase the volume of trade, so that hopefully speaking, we can get a trade agreement with them, which will give us ticking positive relations, which will keep us safe in the Thunderdome. So we don't get the same situation that we have with France. We can definitely wheel this back with France, but it's going to require us kind of using and maneuvering our Diplo. I think we're going to stop improving relations here, and we're going to start improving relations with France. Again, trying to juggle these guys up to a higher kind of tier. We've given up on Russia, though. Russia, we're just going to rival and fight and do this sort of thing. We get nationalism, which unlocks Federate Canada and Australia. We're not going to be too fast on this, but to be fair, the fact that we're not federating is going to give us more mandate progress, so I think we'll take the mandate progress for now until we get our principles all worked up anyways, so it's not too big a deal. But we can now do the Aberdeen Act, which is going to exchange a little bit of authority, of which we have an enormous amount, an absolute ton, the most we've ever had ever. Look at all we're doing. We've got consumption taxes a ton, we're suppressing the landed gentry, we got road maintenance and more. It's like a freaking, what's it called, the commercial for OxyClean. And don't wait, there's more. There's an Aberdeen Act. So we will say slavery is bad, and we will get a little bit more influence, which is going to help us to be able to do some more stuff. Actually, we were starting to bankroll Lower Canada. I think we'll actually stop, and I think maybe we can improve relations with Prussia. We can't. We're just a little bit shy. The GPs is strong. So I think we'll try and go for Spain instead. Spain often becomes a GP. They're a major power right now. But if we can get a bankroll off of them, this will be nice for us as well. Currently, as it stands, we are getting this much from the bankrolls, around 130k. And so while we're running a positive balance, things are still not fully not tenuous, I suppose. Our next war is almost certainly going to be to take Beijing, because this is going to be what's quite strong, and then maybe release some more states from Great Qing. Maybe look to isolate their market. I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but we're just going to make sure we don't take Shaozhou, because otherwise we would lose access to our beautiful, gorgeous, very, very pretty treaty port here, which is giving us the ability to trade with Great Qing and not get tariffed and get really good dealsies with them. Okay, just to showcase the yo-yo sway thing that we're talking about, we're gonna first assign a bunch of conscripts to these armies, although we can't assign too much conscripts, and the reason for this is it makes our army appear bigger and scarier to the AI. They're more likely to accept stuff, and we're gonna go for become subject. We see the acceptance score is a 97 if we just unpause and let the conscripts think, so it gave us +2 the little bits we added, and we're gonna ask for become protectorate, and without unpausing, we're gonna side with the other side. So now they're like, yikes, that's scary, oh no, please don't help us, or no, please help us, don't hurt us. That's the one. And so we will be helping them deal with Navajo, and we will be getting Mexico as a subject. In this way, we have made a lot of progress. We can take a look at this is how we got Persia, this is how we got Siam, and Burma. Burma is our subject. Why is Burma not in our market? What the hell? Oh, because we're still fighting them. Did we really not resolve this yet? Aren't we landing? Terrible. How's this going? Okay, we're almost landed. So we'll be finishing up Burma here, and then once we have Burma we just went for naturally, but just wanted to show mechanically how we are executing this, because I think we haven't shown it at all this episode, but off to a very, very strong start here. And we want to start thinking about actually reducing autonomy. We took a look, and we actually can't reduce British East India Company autonomy just quite yet, because they have a special rule preventing it, which of course makes sense. And so I think instead we're going to go for someone else, and look to try and reduce their autonomy. So I think that Cape Colony, they have gold, so why don't we try and reduce their autonomy? So we will find them in the thing, and this will give plus relations with everyone else, or plus, a liberty desire with everyone else, which we of course don't like, but it's not the biggest deal. But I think that we want to be, if we're not using our liberty desire decay on all these guys, I think we're effectively losing it. So, oh, we can't do it with these guys either. Drat. We need the special interaction for them. Okay, well that's interesting, to reduce their autonomy, right? Am I just blind? No, we can only reduce, or actually we can only annex because they're already a puppet. Okay, we'll find a dominion, we'll reduce their autonomy. Even though we're receiving a bankroll from France, we're actually going to side with radical France, and we're going to do it for a bankroll from them, which we didn't even need to yo-yo sway for. And with this, we will also rival France, so that we can get a little bit of extra diplo, so that we can go in on both Austria and Prussia with an improve of relations. I think that maybe it's the case we want to fund lobbies. I don't know if we want to start paying that much at this early stage in the game. I think we'd rather kind of be paying for construction, but this is kind of a very nice maneuver for us. So we get a little bit of flavor here, kind of our early flavor. Afghanistan petitions us for assistance. Kandahar has petitioned us. Securing a friendly Afghan state will be a useful tool against our enemies in the region, and we will give them some bonuses. We'll pay a little bit of money, and we get some leverage against them. And there's a negative catalyst for Russia. I think we'll just say yes, because this is the thing. Except, wait, was that Kandahar? Kandahar petitioned us for... Just kidding, we're stupid. Okay, so these guys are just going to get full annexed by our subject, which we're super okay with, and so maybe we maybe we go for, this is all that's going to be left. Oh well, sorry Kandahar, I think even with that assistance, you need a little bit more than, alright, okay. Notably, our anti-France association has gone away, but I don't think I saw a thing for our pro-France establishment has also gone away, so now we are left with nothing but the anti-Russian League, which is fine with us. We are floating negative bureaucracy, but this doesn't matter, it just decreases our prestige, and so we will get to improve relations with a few too many guys, up until the point where their relations become plus 50, so this will be nice for us, at which point we maybe try and get a trade agreement. Actually, they'll accept a trade agreement right now. A trade agreement would be really nice. We would have to give up 2 improved relations, but I think we're going to stop improving relations here, and then also stop improving relations with France in order to kind of lock in our trade agreement. I think we'll still have another 100 floating, so that we can try and get in with not just France, but also we would want to get a trade agreement with them. We're even further from a trade agreement with them. That's unfortunate. Really want to get those in. Really hope that we get some sort of... It's unfortunate that they're friendly with Russia because we're enemies with Russia, and the fact that we're rivaled with Russia and they're friendly with Russia means that we will not get anything from the anti-Russian League in terms of being able to get trade agreements with their, ostensive allies. So we have started to complete a few monuments. In particular, what the monuments are giving us is minus decree cost, and so we are having, Lancashire having only 150 cost for 2 decrees, only 150 cost for 2 decrees here. I don't think we finished one in the capital. We're working on it, but there's only 1 decree here, or there's 2 decrees now. And we also have road maintenance in Yorkshire. We are pretty maxed out on a lot of these things. We'll put this at the back of the queue. We're pretty maxed out on kind of a lot of the consumption taxes we want to engage in. In theory, we could use these to bolster and suppress, and if we wanted to hyper micromanage some stuff, we could actually try and perfectly balance all of these IGs, which might be something we lean into, because this is a pretty strong mechanic. We also have loan interest rate, minus loan interest rate here. If we get both of the, or if we get these guys up to above 20% clout for doubled, this minus 30% loan interest rate is going to make it so we can deficit spend really, really aggressively. However, when you're receiving bankrolls, deficit spending is really spooky, because if you lose a bankroll, suddenly something can get really, really sketchy. But if we were using like 2 to 3 bolsters and suppresses, we could manage it so that we would keep everyone's clout around 20%, so we could have as many doubled bonuses as possible. And this is one of the things that, or one of the strategies that's potentially unlocked by having so much authority, and Great Britain really, really perfect for this with their power block. Now, we do have an available mandate. I'm not sure exactly what we want to spend it on. I don't think, we don't really get much from Vassalization 2 or Construction 2, so we're just kind of holding out. And what we are considering is, I was thinking that we go external trade 2, so we could get a whole bunch of Diplo, but we're kind of making the Diplo thing work for us right now, so I think we're just going to hang on to it. We might go, advanced research is maybe a vibe. We could do advanced research kind of early on, look to push ahead on some techs. This would be pretty good, considering we are managing to massage and maneuver our Diplo into the way we want, where we have good relations with almost all the GPs right now. I guess we could do a little bit better. Ottomans are still a GP. We have a trade agreement with them, and we're just trying to get bankrolls off of these guys, peeling it off. So we'll have a little bit of a think, and maybe we'll side something in, but really not too interested in Vassalization too. Well, the extra income transfer per subjects wouldn't be like nothing, but it's not too crazy, because what we're getting is, we're getting 140k from our non-subjects. I guess it's like 60k, so the plus percentage on that's maybe not inconsequential, and the fact that we don't have anything we really want, it's an additional 15k. I guess 15k is 15k, huh? So we'll just slot this in. I guess it wasn't 15k. The truth hurts. We're going to go for a relatively early labor movement, because we don't really have too many laws that we want to pass, that we haven't passed already. Right now we're going onto no health system, with the idea of going back onto public health insurance, which is a bit better than charity hospitals, and we need to swap in this way. But other than that, we're in pretty good shape. I think we might keep the Anglican Church around, and it's almost tempting to even go... Look, I think that we might even prefer this company throughput bonus and this authority percentage bonus to the Intelligentsia's bonuses, and maybe instead of going, in the direction of migration attraction and this type of thing, we just look to pump this up, and then we could use the principal group for freedom of movement in order to do stuff. But if we are siphoning off a ton of population from the East India Company, then maybe we don't really need the migration attraction of the Intelligentsia, and we can instead leverage the Anglican Church, which I think is the second best religious group kind of in the game, behind Jewish. Probably getting a 20% company throughput bonus would be nice, and so it's still potentially the case that we could go for this. This will also make people a lot happier, and then we will get radicals and loyalist type things, but also the PMs are a little bit better, I think, on state-run churches and like these types of things in terms of just wage multiplier. And so this is maybe something we lean into here, and it's also would shake things up a little bit in terms of how we normally play, and so maybe this is something for us to do. I think total separation would be, total separation is not really required anymore in order to get migration. You can get mass migration and intermarket migration if it's discriminated against, and we already have religious schools in place, which is going to play fantastically for converting pops over. And so the only problem is it can be difficult to seed your religion in areas. If there's literally zero of a religion in an area, then they can't convert any. So if we were to take a look in here, and we take a look, they're all Sunni and Hindu, so they can't possibly convert Protestant unless a Protestant pop came here. So this is something to keep in mind, and makes it so that getting pops into other areas that are of a religion can be a little bit difficult. This is difficult. So for example, there's some Sunni pops here, but we would not, once we take Beijing, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to get Protestant pops there unless we somehow get someone to migrate over, which would be a little bit of a difficult task, considering with mass migration, the migration attraction is basically going to be zero once we take this. Alright, so this is dirty. Somehow Netherlands have become a great power. Don't know how that happened. It's wrong, morally, spiritually, physically. In every way, this is wrong. But we're going to ask for a bankroll, and we're going to be able to yo-yo them really easily because they're terrified of us. And so, in this way, we will get a bankroll. We will get ticking improved relations. We can even get a trade agreement with them. And at the same time, we will be absolutely dumpstering their economy because they can't afford to send us a bankroll. We were already having trouble, getting enough spending in. We are getting plus 140k from bankrolls currently. We're getting a lot from our subjects as well, and we're just going to keep cranking up the construction. We almost have 500 construction, just like kind of 8 years into the game. Really, really strong kind of open here, and we are still going up more and more and more. We're just going to put in more construction. We also have, a level 20 uni already built, so it's not like we're going to be behind on the academia front of things. We're also secular right now. We might switch back to clerical educators if we are planning on going state religion, which will curb down the Intelligentsia clout. The only question is do we want to use the Intelligentsia to pass some laws that are going to be good and use some abdication mechanics? And I'm not really sure the answer to that. We currently still don't have an heir to Victoria, so it's not like we can use the abdication mechanic currently. But generally, the Intelligentsia is the really good one to abdicate to. But if the Intelligentsia is non-existent and we somehow manage to get the trade unions in, that would be pretty nice too, and then we could abdicate or try to abdicate to the trade unions, so that's maybe going to be something we play towards. We would have to get onto, I think, universal suffrage at some point, but here, look who supports it, the Intelligentsia. So we kind of need the Intelligentsia to pass laws, which is a little bit awkward if we were planning on going state religion. So we opened this episode with the China War. I think it's kind of fitting that we end it with the China War. The really, really valuable is going to be the war reparations. It's going to be 10% of their tax income. To be fair, this is significantly less than it was in 1.7 because their GDP is smaller because of the way that they changed subsistence farms to be giving effectively, they changed peasants to consume half as many goods, and they made subsistence farms have way smaller outputs. And so this decreased a huge portion of their economy, but we will see kind of the wreckage of Qing. We hope that they become the Heavenly Kingdom so that we can pull mass migrations. We will probably look to incorporate relatively early Beijing if we can. Try and figure out some way to do this in terms of the bureaucracy. Maybe if we switch up onto the paper here, this will be standardized filing. This maybe is enough. It's probably not going to be enough though. But this episode, we have gotten an absolutely super explosive start, courtesy of kind of Great Britain. Almost everyone feels really sluggish at the start, but Great Britain did not feel sluggish in anywhere near the same way. Even Russia felt sluggish when we played it on this patch. Like stuff like Persia felt really sluggish, and I think that perhaps a big part of this, okay, to be fair, there's several parts of this. One, there's the fact that we're getting an enormous amount in Diplopacts, both from bankrolls and from all of our subject contributions, the subject contributions being really good. So this is kind of thing one, but also I think that we managed to pop off a lot faster or earlier because we started with 250 financial districts. We have not even doubled our financial districts. I think this is a huge driver of growth, of reinvestment, and I think it's a big reason why a lot of starts, especially the kind of middling or smaller ones, feel really sluggish, is because you have no basis of financial districts. Look at this, we have 145 in the home counties alone. If we take a look at kind of the home counties here, and we take a look at population, we just look at the kind of standard living there is really high relative to the kind of the rest of us, our place, and these guys are living lavishly in terms of kind of the upper rung pops. And man, we're also pulling in a decent amount of migration, not even having a migration edict down. So this is going to be 100k a year without really many bonuses at all kind of coming in. So we have the bankrolls. We have several like subjugated powers as well. Here, we'll just take a look at the market, which makes it a little bit more visible. Mexico has been subjugated. Peru's been subjugated. We also got both Siam and Burma subjugated. Persia's been subjugated. So really explosive start. And then also something that we've been trying to emphasize and really make a point about, especially in 1.7 with the way that catalysts work, is we've been trying to maintain really nice relations with a whole bunch of people. To be fair, we haven't quite gotten these guys in. Support independence, what? We haven't quite got these guys into our block. We are working on it. We're currently building in them, and so hopefully we can do that somewhat soon, so we can do the thing where we subjugate them for free. That'll be pretty nice. But all of the GPs, with the exception of Russia, we have pretty good relations, pretty solid relations with. despite the fact that we've been making some crazy wheeling and dealing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I think we are going to, the theme of this is going to be pushed and just kind of trying to show off how good Great Britain is, even though economies in general seem nerfed. Even with that in mind, Great Britain just seems really, really powerful. And so much more powerful, or they are advantaged much more by the new patch than others, and so we hope to kind of showcase that. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing. There's links down below to stuff like the Discord and the Patreon and stuff like that if you're interested. And other than that, have a good day.